Everybody, a little louder. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. With your heart. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, bolo bolo. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
The Bhagavatam class, you want to stay?
Yes, sir.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone together, a little louder, please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Let's close those windows. We got some noise outside there.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
We can't hear the kirtan. Can you turn it up?
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, sorry, I think
The sound was on too low. You couldn't hear it at all.
oh, okay. Let me try.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
This is a daily class we go.
Hare Rama, Hare
We're
Rama,
on the 12th chapter of the
Rama
sixth
Rama, Hare
verse of
Hare,
spiritual.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody together, a little louder, everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Everyone together.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances to all.
Make sure your volume is nice and loud because I have an audience online on site here also. So they should be able to hear you also.
Okay, is this better, Maharaj?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I welcome all of you to His Holiness Candramauli Swami daily class. Thank you very much for joining. Welcome, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today, hopefully, we are going to continue with Srimad Bhagavatam from Canto 1, Chapter 12, which is Parikshit Maharaj appearance, and verse 22.
1:12:22.
Yes, Maharaj, I will share the screen now. Over to you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 1:12:22, the birth of Maharaj Parikshit. Agendra eva vikrantohun. Want to respond? Magendra eva vikrantohu. Niswayo himavan iva. Titiksur vasudeva so. Sasinu Pitara Viva. Translation. This child will be as strong as a lion and as worthy a shelter as the Himalayan mountains. He will be forbearing like the earth and as tolerant as his parents. Purport. One is compared to the lion when one is very strong in chasing an enemy. One should be a lamb at home and a lion on the chase. A lion never fails in the chase of an animal. Similarly, the head of state should never fail in chasing an enemy. The Himalayan mountains are famous for all richness. There are innumerable caves to live in, innumerable trees of good fruits to eat, good springs to drink water from, and profuse drugs and minerals to cure diseases. Any man who is not material prosperous can take shelter of these great mountains, and he will be provided with everything required. Both the materialist and spirituals can take advantage of the great shelter of the Himalayas. On the surface of the earth, there are so many disturbances caused by the inhabitants. In the modern age, the people have begun to detonate atomic weapons on the surface of the earth. And still the earth is forbearing to the inhabitants, like a mother who excuses a little child. Parents are always tolerant to children for all sorts of mischievous acts. An ideal king may be possessed of all these good qualities, and the child Parikshit is foretold to have all of these qualities in perfection. Magyan timidandasya gina jana salakaya jaksu unmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Nama om Vishnu padaya Krishna prasnaya bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Asyatya De Satarne Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Paevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So continuation with the theme of hearing from the Brahmanas and from the astrologers who are now glorifying the birth chart of this newly born child, who is a posthumous child, who was saved in the womb by Krishna. And Asvatthama wanted to kill the last heir to the Pandava throne. And Krishna personally appeared within the womb and protected the child against this very powerful and very effective weapon known as the Brahmastra. What Srila Prabhupada compares to be like a nuclear weapon. Of course, this particular weapon is released by mantra. And those who know the power of using these mantras can aim a weapon at the target, and the weapon will go right towards that target and not anywhere else. And so Asvatthama, being the son of a Brahmana, he had that knowledge. He learned it from his father, Brahmacharya, who was also a Brahmin, but took up the occupation of a Kshatriya. So Krishna protected him, and later on he got the name Parikshit, which means examiner, because he saw that same person in the womb who was protecting him, and he was thinking, who is this person? And then throughout his whole life, he was looking to find that same person. So the word, he got the name Parikshit, which means examiner. Is this the person? Is this the person? He was examining each and every person he saw to see if he could again find that person. That's how he received his name. So Krishna saved him in the womb because Krishna, for two reasons. One, because he was a pure devotee. He was the son of Abhimanyu, who was killed on the battlefield unfairly by the Kuru generals. And his mother was Uttara, and she gave birth after. The other reason why Krishna saved him is that he was the last heir to the Pandava throne. And without him, the Pandava dynasty would not have any succeeding heir. And here we see this is being explained to Maharaj Yudhisthira Maharaj is hearing from these Brahmins and Kshatriyas. It's being described here. He's compared to Magendra. Magendra is another name for lion. And Prabhupada makes a nice point here. He says, a lion is very strong in chasing the enemy. And Prabhupada uses this example. He says, for devotees, we should be a lion on the chase and a lamb at home. And sometimes we have the opposite. When we're with devotees, we're ferocious. And when we're they're non-devotees, we're nice. But it's supposed to be the other way around. So that mood is illustrated here with how to behave in certain environments. And what Prabhupada means was that lion on the chases means that we should be very clear, direct, and strong in presenting our philosophy to the outside world, not compromising for the sake of pleasing someone's sentiments. And a lamb at home, a devotee is by nature very gentle and very humble in association with other devotees in the mood of service. That's compared to Maharaj Parikshit. We have that example when he got word that there was a low-class man beating the legs of a bull and a cow. He immediately took up his sword to chastise the misbehavior. And he was very strong. He was about to kill him, but this low-caste man surrendered. And it says if you surrender, then immediately you get the mercy. And so he spared his life, but at the same time he told him, you cannot stay in my kingdom. But then he said, well, everywhere is your kingdom. Where can I go? And he said, well, wherever there's illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating, and personification of Kali, the mischievous monger, said, there's no place in your kingdom like that. And now I still don't have a place to go. He said, well, wherever there is hoarding of gold, as it says, wherever there's hoarding of gold, these sinful activities are also present. So there's an example that's being told here. Now, the astrologers and the Brahmins in those days, they could foresee the future of a child when it was brought to them. They had that power. Even today, there are certain astrologers, they're called Brigal readers. There are very few left. They're in India, and there's a few there. They can tell you who you were in the past, what you did in this life before you came to them, what you will do in the future, and when you will die. They'll tell you everything. But there's only few of them left in the world. It's a very powerful science that very few astrologers have. Most astrologers are not so adept. But these astrologers here, along with these brahmanas, were giving the reading. Srila Prabhupada also talks about himself. He said, well, when I was born, my mother, when I was 1 year old, she took me to an astrologer. And he said that this boy, at the age of 70, will cross the ocean and open up 108 Krishna temples. So Prabhupada actually knew that from the time he was born. That was also predicted like that. Of course, he did that. When Prabhupada was in New York, And he was sitting on the park bench. This is when he first arrived. He practically didn't have much support at that time and hardly even places to stay. But he was sitting on the park bench, and one train conductor from Iran became curious and sat next to Prabhupada. And he thought, oh, this is a very interesting looking person. So he started to speak. Who are you and where did you come from? He said, well, I have come from India on the instructions of my spiritual teacher, and I've come to teach eternal religious principles, and I have 108 temples, and they're separated by time. And then the train conductor was thinking, looks like a very intelligent person, but he's speaking quite crazy. He has 108 temples separated by time. But of course, the conversation went on, then it ended. And it's interesting because I received a letter from a person who was in jail who knew that same train conductor later on in life. And he came to the Seattle temple and he walked in, and there was Prabhupada's Murti sitting on the Vyasasana. And he went quite emotional and started to speak quite loudly in public and said, he said he was going to do it. He did it. I didn't believe him. He did it. He was speaking like that. So that same Krishna arranged for that conductor to get, I told you, it was 108 temples. So this is interesting how Prabhupada could understand he was destined to do this work. It wasn't like something that it just unfolded naturally. It did, in one sense, as things developed. How the details unfolded, but Prabhupada knew he was empowered by the Lord to do this work. And he did it. Here it mentions that he's also compared, Parikshit Maharaj, as the Himalaya mountains. The Himalayas are, of course, very difficult mountains to reach, but they are famous for wealth, because here they have innumerable caves, trees, nice fruit, good springs for drinking water, profuse drugs for curing diseases, minerals. And Prabhupada goes on to say, any person who is not materially prosperous can take shelter of these great mountains. You know, anybody poor, can send them to the Himalayas. Tell them, it's maybe a little cool sometime of the year, but you'll get everything you need. You can also build your house there. And it says, Prabhupada goes on to say, he will be provided with everything required. And Prabhupada, he's very magnanimous and says, and the materialist and the spiritualist can take advantage. Not just the spiritualist. Here it's mentioned the earth, and how forbearing the earth is. One of the qualities. Earth is a living being. She's called Mother. Mother Earth. We have 7 mothers that are mentioned in the Shastras. Earth is one. Cow, our natural mother. The nurse, the wife of a Brahmana, the wife of the ruling head, and a cow, right? Yeah, 7 mothers that's mentioned. So Mother Earth is one because she provides everything that the living entity needs to live, just like a mother will provide for the family. So she's called Mother. In the real sense of the term, it's not a euphemism just to describe. It's actually the real identity of Mother Earth. Everything is there in the earth. Whatever you need to live is provided by Mother Earth, completely and perfectly, wholesomely. Food, air, wood for making houses, herbs for making medicine, for curing diseases, every disease can be cured by the herbs that are available in the different forests around the world. So she's mother. But here it says that the non-devotees, the materialists, they like to detonate their weapons, and which causes great tribulations upon the earth, but still she's very forbearing. But there's one thing she cannot tolerate, and that's mentioned in the Shastras in the 8th canto. He said, Earth speaks herself in this regard. He says, I can bear any sinful activity except the liar, one who lies. You can understand how sinful it is to lie. And people are going on in life to get whatever they want and lying all the time. It's like there's you know what the word oxymoron is? You've heard of the word oxymoron? Oxymoron means two things that don't go together, such as honest businessman or happy marriage. Of course, sometimes it works. That's a little, I mean, that's not an absolute principle, but it is the tendency. Anyway, what can you do? That's life in Kali Yuga. So Earth is very forbearing, and she sees all of the living entities, progenies, and she wants to give them not only what they need, but also protection. So when the demons were really profuse just prior to the appearance of Krishna, Mother Earth made her petition to the demigods that the demons are so numerous that their sinful activities is causing great burden on the earth. Of course, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Yada Yada Hidharmas, Glanir Bhavati Bharata, Bhutanam Adharmasya Tadatvanam Sejamyaham, Pavitra Sadhunam Vinasanaya Taduskitam Dharma Samsthasanaya. Sambhavami Yuge, Krishna comes. But although he knows, still he was called. So Mother Earth made her petition. The demigods, especially Lord Brahma, gathered all the leading demigods headed by Indra, and they went to the ocean of milk and spoke those beautiful prayers, which are called the Purusha Shukta prayers, glorifying the Lord. They could not see the Lord. All they could do is stand in the ocean of milk and offer their prayers, knowing the Lord would hear. And he responded. Still, he didn't appear personally. And he said, soon I will advance. And he did. So sometimes people want to know why the earth was so overbearing with demons at that particular time. And it's interesting because in the Mahabharata, it describes that when Lord Parasuram was here, he was in a Shaktavesh incarnation of the Lord that was empowered to remove what we say irreligious kings. And he went around and started killing all of the kings in different places. And then 21 generations of Kshatriyas were destroyed. And now the earth was without its leaders. So what to do? And so the Brahmins were consulted by the ruling families who had no leadership. What should we do? And the Brahmins are meant to give advice. Brahminical culture is the foundation for a progressive society. The Kshatriyas have to govern, they collect taxes, and they also give out benefits to the people in general and give protection. And now that element was no longer there. So the Brahmins were consulted by the royal families, and a program was instituted to bring about saintly rule on the earth again. And it was a little bit different. So the Brahmins contacted the sages who were meditating in the forests and said, we have some seva for you. Interesting seva. We want you to procreate children with the princesses that are the daughters of these kings that have been killed, and therefore create a whole, what we say, a dynasty of saintly kings. So the sages agreed and united with these princesses, and then saintly rule after maybe 100 years came back on the earth again. And the earth was flourishing nicely. But there's demons. And the demons won't let you alone. That's a big problem even today. And so they started to attack the demigods and the heavenly planets, and it was a big battle. Some people think, oh, it's so nice, we can go to heaven, or Goloka, you live long. You have so many amenities for enjoying material life there, and everything is nice, but then the demons attack, so it's not always peaceful there. So they did, and it was a big battle, and the demons wanted to get a base so they could fight against the demigods, so they chose Earth, and they started taking birth in different species. And that's why you saw some of those Agasura, Bakasura, Keishi, Aristasura. These were all demons that took birth in order to, again, populate the earth with demoniac population. And so then the earth got again overburdened with demoniac forces, and then that's when Krishna. And that's the history prior to the appearance of the Lord in the world. So sometimes Prabhupada says, even today, the demons are quite profuse and they will give you trouble. He said in 1972, they will continue to increase. But he said, don't worry, just chant Hare Krishna. Because Kali Kale, Nama Rupa, Krishna Avatar, Nama Hoite Haya Sarva Jagat Nistara, that in this age, Krishna has manifested himself in the sound of his holy name. So that is an incarnation in this age to purify the world and to uplift those who chant the holy names to the perfectional stage of love of God. So Krishna is very merciful. He's come in that form. And he's also come in the form of Lord Jagannath. And he's also, in one sense, he's also come in the form of Ganga Devi. Well, Ganga Devi, she's also one who takes bath in Ganges can become purified automatically. The problem is those that take bath in the Ganges, they become purified, then they go out and do nonsense again. And it's like called Hasti Snan, the elephant. He takes his bath very nicely, big monster, comes back on the land, throws water all over, sand all over his body, and then he's back to where he was before he bathed. Called Hasti Snan. So when we chant the holy names of the Lord, we're actually becoming purified. And simply by chanting one name purely, all of the reactions of all sinful activities can be destroyed completely. But then again, we have to be careful because Kali Yuga is a very contaminated age. So being in this atmosphere, Prabhupada said, just like when you're in a hospital, even if you're a doctor in the hospital, you have to take precaution because all of the people are diseased. So many times doctors also get sick because of the service that they have treating others. So just he said, this material world is like a hospital. There's the disease of Bhava Rog. Bhava Rog means material desire to enjoy sense gratification to the utmost limit. So one has to chant and also very carefully stay in the association of devotees and work in that environment, and that way one will become free from the effects of Kali Yuga as long as we keep good devotee association. And then here he goes on to say, he will be like his parents. His parents were very tolerant. Abhimanyu, Uttara. So we don't know too much about Abhimanyu. He was the son of Arjuna, unfairly killed on the battlefield by 7 very powerful Kshatriya warriors from the Kuru side. And that's also an interesting story. When Arjuna learned what had happened, how his son was killed unfairly, and he knew it was due to, what was his name? Jayadratha. Jayadratha was one of the fighters. And it was because of him, Abhimanyu could not break the circle and get out of the unfair fight. So Arjuna said, I will kill Jayadratha today. The battle was going on. And if I fail to do so, I will enter into the fire. He took a strong vow. And so the fighting began. And the Kuru, that if they could keep Jayadratha alive, then Arjuna would enter into fire. And if Arjuna was killed, then it would be easy to win the war. So they kept Jayadratha on the other end of the battlefield and protected him with all of these powerful warriors. And the battlefield was 28 miles long, a huge battlefield. And so Krishna was there on the chariot, and Arjuna was killing soldiers and moving towards Jayadratha. And Krishna said, don't waste time, go right for Jayadratha. Don't worry about these other soldiers. So he started to go. And it was getting later in the day. And the rule is, when the sun goes down, the fighting stops. There's no fighting when the sun goes below the horizon. And so they're fighting, and Arjuna is going, and he's plowing through all of these soldiers who were protecting it. Krishna's on the chariot. Krishna's encouraging her. And finally, in the sky, the sun is just above the horizon. And the Kurus are making sure that they have their best men protecting Jayadratha. So it's getting closer and closer and closer. And finally, Arjuna is unable to get there before the sun goes down. And so the sun apparently went down. So what Krishna did, Haribol, he cheats. Can't trust him. He says he's gonna not fight, but he does. He dances with everybody's wife, you know. He's got all kinds of habits that we don't really need to follow. So, but that's Krishna. His cane is crooked too. Ram, people say.
Wenn solche Sachen sagt, er guckt und so, dann strahlt er immer.
Kirti, shut off your thing. And they say we should worship Ram because he's more righteous, he tells the truth. But Krishna, Kotiya Pradijani Hina Me Bhakta Pranashyati. So Krishna, what he did, he covered the sun to make it look like the sun went down over the horizon. And then when the Kurus saw that the sun was down, apparently, they started to cheer. Arjuna's going to have to enter into the fire. Because he's a Kshatriya, and he says, Kshatriya, when they give their word, they don't go back on it. So now everyone's cheering, and then they left Jayadratha without any protection, because they thought, oh, you know, Arjuna's, you know, the sun went down, the fighting ended. But then Krishna said to Arjuna, kill him. So Arjuna went and right through all of them. They weren't even guarding him anymore. He went right to Jayadratha and finished him. And the Kurus were thinking, what happened? He cheated. And then Krishna pulled the cloud away from the sun to show that the sun had not gone down. So Krishna, Kantiya Pratijani, he saved his devotee, his devotee will never perish. The one who becomes a devotee of Krishna is always in the best position. And so, yeah, so this was, and so we're hearing about the glories in a comparative way. As this chapter goes on, you'll hear him being compared to so many great personalities, so many qualities that are considered to be lofty qualities here, strong as a lion, worthy of shelter, just like the Himalayans, forbearing, tolerant, all good qualities. Unfortunately, nowadays, the leaders don't possess even one of these qualities. Maybe. And people are victimized. And Prabhupada said that the leaders of today cannot lead the people, they simply squeeze the people. There's a story from the Mahabharata where after the battle of Kurukshetra, Yudhisthira took the throne, and now he is opening up his office to anyone who wants to come and talk to him. Saintly King wants to give everybody a chance. Whatever, if you have some problems, come and talk to the leader. If you just want to spend some time, yeah. So he was very magnanimous. Because a real Kshatriya, a real ruler, sees the progeny or the citizens as his children and treats them in the same way as his own personal children. So one man, he came to see Yudhisthira, and Bhima was at the door, and he was the secretary. Yudhisthira was busy, so Bhima said, "Will you tell me?" And he said, "Well, you know, I decided to make a garden, so I secured all of the things that I needed, some shrubbery, seeds, got everything there, and I made a beautiful garden. Took me a long time. And I had nice flowers, different fragrances, different shapes. Everything was nice, bushes, trees, plants, creeper, everything was so beautiful. I was so proud of my garden. And then I decided I have to get a wall to protect my garden. Because, you know, the garden could get destroyed. So I spent some time and I built this nice big wall all around the garden. But as soon as I finished building the wall started to encroach upon the garden and destroy the garden. I built the wall to protect the garden, and the wall destroyed the garden. I need to talk to Yudhisthira. And later on, it was revealed in this passage. This is a very long passage, and there were 5 men who came to see Yudhisthira for different problems. Later on, it was revealed that was an analogous of the features of Kali Yuga, that the citizens will elect the government officials for protection, but the government officials will destroy the citizens. That's Kali Yuga. Hare Krishna. Some good news. Anyway, okay, so we'll stop here and open it up for questions. Any questions from the devotees?
Thanks, Maharaj. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, if you have any questions, comments, realization, request all the devotees to please unmute yourself, ask that question. This is the best opportunity. Also request everyone that if you can please switch on your video, all the devotees who are on the virtual this Zoom session. And also request devotees who are physically present with Maharaj, if you have any questions. So maybe I will give time first for the devotees who are present with Maharaj, because I cannot see. So maybe
we have at least 15 devotees here or more on site. When we have a question, I'll repeat the question so you can hear it. Well, we have to stay with the topic here. Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah.
Mother Earth, so forbearing and something.
The earth,
Mother Earth,
yeah.
this regard, that she cannot tolerate the enough in the lie.
Lie, yeah.
It's like but lying, she's like.
It's everywhere. So the question is coming that it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam in the 8th canto that Mother Earth speaks and she says, I can bear any sinful activity except a liar. That's in the pastime of Bali Maharaj with Vamanadev, when Bali had given his word that he would give Vamanadev 3 steps of land. Sukaracharya knew who Vamanadev was, and he knew that he would lose everything. So he told him that because you didn't touch water and didn't, go through the principles of making the vow, you can not keep that promise. But Bali wasn't interested in hearing that. And then that verse came up that the earth can bear, but cannot tolerate a liar. Seems to be a very sinful manifestation of lying. Nobody likes a liar anyway. Right? But nowadays it's commonplace. And then we call it sophistry. Sophistry means half truth, half untruth. Sometimes you flatter people in order to get what you want. So there's some truth to the flattery, but the flattery is what is the lying part. And that goes on like that. Prabhupada used to he said, the Gujarati businessmen, they carry the big mustaches. You can't see their lips, they have the mustache. He said, for you, we make no profit. And then they smile. You can't see the smile. Oh, yeah, so business means something else, at least in Kali Yuga. Oh, yeah. Okay, he brought the verse up. It's 8:20, 8th canto, 20th chapter, verse number 4. There is nothing more sinful than untruthfulness. Because of this, Mother Earth once said, I can bear any heavy thing except a person who is a liar. Go down to the purport and I'll read it. It's very short. On the surface of the earth, there are many great mountains and oceans that are very heavy, and Mother Earth has no difficulty carrying them. But she feels very much overburdened when she carries even one person who is a liar. It is said that in the Kali Yuga, lying is a common affair. Mayava vyavaharike. Even in the most common dealings, people are accustomed to speaking so many lies. No one is free from the sinful reactions of speaking lies. Under the circumstances, one can just imagine how this has overburdened the earth and indeed the entire universe. That's from 8:24. Another question? Yeah. Yeah.
Maharaj, you mentioned about Jayadratha being the small innocent child, and they were also Candramauli, Draupadi, and all they. How should we understand the small kids?
How the children of Draupadi were killed by Asvatthama? course, there's no question that Krishna's power is complete. And you might say the sons of the Pandavas are just as good as the Pandavas. Right? I think you have to ask Krishna on that one. Sometimes he allows things to happen, and sometimes he intervenes and changes things around. He has another element. He's called the permitter. He allows things to happen for a certain reason. So we'd have to search out what is that reason. Maybe to bring out it's an interesting question. It's quite difficult to answer because all we can say is that Krishna does know everything, and he is also the protector of his devotees. These children were about 12 years old. So whatever reason, of course there is a reason, I'm just not aware of it, why Krishna allowed that to go on. Maybe to show the good qualities of Draupadi. Maybe to take these boys back to the spiritual world. But we can't, when non-devotees will question God and then they say, well, there was that famous book that was the bestseller in America for, I think it has the history of the best-selling book in America. And that was when Prabhupada was here in the 70s. The book was called, Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? And it was a rabbi. His son was born with a very unusual and rare disease called progeria, which when you go through your life cycle fast. So he had a son who died of old age at the age of 14. He had all the symptoms of old age in 14 years and died of old age. So he's a rabbi, he's a man of God, he believes in God. So he's thinking, wow, why would God allow this to happen? And then he wrote a book. He said, God is all good, but there's so many things that he's doing and he misses a few. So he took his omnipotent aspect away. God is, he's on your side. He's really trying. But there's so many things that he has to do. He misses a few ones. So he missed that one. So this book became, hey, we got the answer. Yes, God is good. We still have our faith in God, but maybe his secretaries failed to do his work for him. Something, he conjectured in so many ways, in such a way that he wrote. But we wrote a response. It was Ravinda Saruprabhu who wrote a response to that and said that we have to understand that bad things happen to bad people, and good things happen. So good and bad is not always understood in this life. So these are things that happen because of karma from previous lives. When Dhritarashtra came to Krishna and said, my dear Krishna, my 100 sons were killed on the battlefield. I was born blind. What was my karma? Krishna said, 50 lives ago, you were a hunter. You shot a flaming arrow into a nest of birds. And 100 birds were in the nest and they all died, and the mother got away blinded by the fire. So then Dhritarashtra replied, 50 lives ago? And Krishna said, yes. In order to have a son, you have to have pious credits. And so it took you 50 lives to get enough pious credits for 100 sons, and then your karma cashed in. So karma is like that. There is what is called delayed karma. That it may come many lives later, or it may come sooner. It depends on the nature of the activity. So that was, yeah, it's a little dangerous there. Yeah, that was mentioned. Yes, we have any questions from online there?
Yes, Maharaj, there is one hand raised by Scarlett Mataji. Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, and thank you for the class today. This is only a question for me to learn. Is it the same if the devotee, for instance, doesn't live by the rule or regulation of the country or city and lie, and thinking that I'm devotee, I don't need to have this, to live by this rule and regulation. I just need to live by the rule and regulation in consciousness. Is it okay? Is it allowed?
You get the question? He's saying, can devotees lie because they don't want to follow the rules and regulations? Well, Prabhupada said, of course I won't say this, but he says when you deal with cheaters, you have to cheat. So, but in some cases, when devotees do lie, they get a reaction for that, but not the full reaction. It's like a slap rather than a punch. Because karma works 100%, but when you take up devotional service, Prabhupada used the example that you may have been a murderer in your last life, and the reaction for that is you have to be killed also. But you come to devotional service and you engage in that way, and then so you cut your finger. So he used that example. You get a small reaction for a big offense because now you have taken shelter of devotional service. But we shouldn't abuse that and think we can do that because Krishna, he knows things happen accidentally, and that's one thing. But purposely, if you do that, you may also get a reaction. You will get a reaction. But it's like a parent slapping a child just to get it back to where it's supposed to be. It's not like an enemy killing another enemy. There is, but Krishna, we should live by religious principles and not simply break laws simply because we think we're okay.
Thank you.
If it does happen, there is a slap just to remind you.
I have another question, but it's not
No,
related to today.
Hold your second question. Any other questions out here? Yeah, must it be? Truthfully.
Not necessarily they want to tell lie, but if it truth should be parallel. Some reasons we don't want to hurt the devotee, and the situation also should be, and so in that situation, not for a lie, but if it's quiet or something, that reaction.
Could be. Satyam priyam, satyam bruyam. One should speak the truth in a way that is pleasing. That's an art you have to learn. There are certain devotees who are good at that. And they have to speak truth, but in a way that it doesn't offend the one who is hearing, even though it's unpalatable. But I think you have to see the situation. whether it's responding or not responding will make it worse either way. You have to see. Not always so easy, but generally devotees live by principle, and truthfulness is a principle. But, you know, if somebody breaks into your house and says, "Where's your money?" If you're Brahmin, you'll say, "What's over there." If you're Kshatriya, you'll try to fight him. If you're a Vaishya, you'll try to feed him. If you're Sudra, you'll run. Of course, devotees are not any of these qualities, but we do have these tendencies. Sri Devi.
So Maharaj, we are just short on time. I hope we can take this as a last question.
I'll take Sri Devi, then we'll close it, and then I'll continue.
Sure. Thanks, Maharaj. Mataji,
Awesome.
Sri Devi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you. Dear Guru Maharaj, I have a question about the sense of destiny that Srila Prabhupada felt about his mission in spreading Krishna consciousness. Is it that when we feel convinced about something, or we have a conviction about what we are meant to do, that is Krishna guiding us to contribute in some meaningful way, or to do some special seva for Srila Prabhupada, for Krishna? Or it could just be some mental concoction or obsession of our own, coming out of our own head.
Hare Krishna. You know the answer. Right? You know the answer.
All right. By humble obeisance.
It could be either one. You have to discriminate. You have to get advice in order to discriminate between what is actually favorable for Krishna consciousness and what is unfavorable. Anukulena and pratikul. What is favorable for Krishna consciousness, what is unfavorable. That choice you have to understand by knowing Shastra and being guided by spiritual teachers. And when you get inspired in that way, then if you're not sure, then you should definitely get advice. And not only from one person, but maybe from a few who are qualified.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Yeah, because maybe the spiritual master wants you to serve in this way and you want to serve in that way. So that's one of the things that will cause you to not make advancement, because you're acting independently. That's an example. Okay, Vrindavanath Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj, for this amazing class. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai.
Hare Krishna. We'll try to see you tomorrow, hopefully.